This is Izzy Dakota Jones with the Art of Doing podcast for 2023 coming up. Guess what? We're going to be talking to a great band, a great artist, Stephen Forbes, and Stephen has a Stephen Forbes project. Really cool band out of Vancouver, Canada. Just very interesting. They sound like a mixture of Pink Floyd and Alan Parsons Project. To me, that's what I get out of it. Very interesting. Great sounds, really cool hooks in their songs. Really good band. And we're going to be talking to Stephen and about his band and about him and where his influences lie and everything, and how long he's been playing in the music industry for. And that's where we're at. So in a few minutes, I'll be contacting Mr. Stephen Forbes, and we'll be going forward with this interview for 2023, the Art of Doing podcast. This is the first one, January. So hang in there, folks. We'll be talking to Stephen Forbes.
You write songs that are a little different, a little off-center, and not corporate sanctioned. So we're offering at least an alternative, and some people are picking up on it, that's for sure.
Interesting. So basically, like I said, your musical influences again are from jazz and your family, like Gershwin and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And so the band's had, you've got what, 2 albums out over the years, right?
Yeah, we have the 2 albums and 1 EP.
1 EP. That's great. Now, where do you think the direction of the band is going to go now? Coming up next, what's your plans? What you guys are going to be doing now?
Yeah, that's a really tough one, because we haven't actually had rehearsal in a while, and it's really tough in the city to keep a band together. You know what I mean? It's just like everybody's out there with like less and less places to play. So I guess we're just going to have to sit down and I'll get with all the guys together and sit down and we'll just kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
Present some new songs to them or whatever. I never actually stopped writing, and so I've got a couple of different things that I can present to the guys and say, look, how do you feel about this? And if I can get a consensus, then we can move forward a little bit, because I've got enough within a certain type of thing. Plus, we also have the songs that work live too, so we're able to put a whole bunch of new things in and still keep kind of a core that we know go down very well. So we'll see.
Cool. And in over the while you're figuring what you're going to do next and stuff with your music, I guess like you said, you're evolving. Is the second your next album coming, or your next bunch of songs? Are they going to take root in changing too? Are you going to evolve in your changing? You guys think? Is that where you're going?
Well, I think what I'll probably end up doing is maybe a little side project as well, because I do have a lot of things that I recorded digitally that I don't know if the band would really want to do. It's more of like Badfinger,
cool.
Early 70s kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of that stuff. And I think it would be such a lane change that I might just do something like that, just for my own project as well.
That's
and,
cool.
Perhaps do some solo acoustic work, which would allow me to, do things that I couldn't really do with the band.
Right.
So I think that's probably what I'm going to do for the next little while, maybe sometime in the new year. Try some acoustic shows, hopefully in a place where they enjoy, live acoustic music, original music, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know if there's any places like that around, but I'm going to see if I can do that.
Yeah.
And maybe put out maybe a little EP of that kind of music that I was just talking about, and just at this point, I'm thinking it's pretty much art for art's sake,
Yeah.
Any real financial gain to be had, other than the fact that you can maybe reach a few people that really like what you do.
That's it. Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting that you mentioned. So you're basically going off like some of your influences and like when we're talking about the Beatles, the evolution of changing and stuff as you go. and staying creative. I think, like you say, that's where your creative energy is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then, like, when I was talking to Mark McGovern, was talking to Mark was telling me that you used to have a gig at the Irish place. What was that?
That's Blarneystone.
Used to be the Glory. Did you have a house gig there?
Yeah, I was there for 16 years.
Wow, that's right too. Holy smoke! Because I remember meeting you there a long time ago, and then when Mark mentioned that, I says, "Well, I known Stephen for a long time." Then he goes, "Yeah." I says, "Holy smoke!" I says, "I didn't realize that." Right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I was the way that come up. I knew all the guys. Because I was playing at another club around the corner for a while called the Pig and Whistle.
Oh yes, I remember the Pig and Whistle. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was there, and I was very lucky. I got a lot of house gigs while I was here. I mean, a drag that can be just moving all your gear all the time from one night.
Oh yeah, terrible after a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was actually, I did know the guys from the band, just in Killarney. Was friendly towards them, right? And they heard me play, and I substituted. Once in a while, I would come in and do a substitute gig when one of the members was on vacation. So they knew I could play, knew it was compatible. I knew the music and I'm easy to get along with too, which really goes a long way. As it's no good having a guy in the band that blows your socks off if you can't be in the same room with him.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm pretty easy to get along with. I think that weighed into it a little bit. So I happened to be on tour at the time with my brother's band called the Stoders, who were kind of the first Celtic rock band in either British Columbia or Canada.
Wow.
Mixer, yeah. You look the guys up, but we were actually on tour. I think we were in Sweden at the time, and weirdly enough, I got a call when I was in. I wasn't in Stockholm, but I was on the road somewhere in some small town in Sweden. And I thought, there was a phone call for me, like the club is a block. Anyway, it turned out that the bass player from Killarney was leaving, and he was a long-time member. And they wanted to know if I would like the job. Of course, I was on tour with the Stoders, so I had to make a decision because I thought, oh man, is this band going to make it or what? Anyway, I decided to go with it. I came back. And they were very patient with me because I had to learn a lot of songs.
I bet.
Really quick.
Yeah, to do a house gig? Holy smoke, yeah.
Yeah, these guys have been together. Here's the thing about these guys. If anybody, is listening, has been to Vancouver during the 70s and 80s and 90s, they know who this Killarney was because Blarneystone, because they were the only real authentic Irish band.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, they were all... literally two brothers, gosh, I'm thinking of the name. I'm starting to blank out a little bit here. They grew up in a small town in Ireland, didn't have a TV. So all they did was play music just to make themselves, keep themselves interested, entertain themselves. So these guys really knew their craft, right? And they've been in all kinds of bands in Ireland, and when they came over to Canada, they were just like right at the top of the tree. Anyway, they'd been together like for a quarter of a century before I joined them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then it wasn't hard as people, but it was like, they got the way they do things, and I had to get with that program. You know what I mean? There wasn't any room for me to be experimenting around like, this is how it goes, dude. But they were nice about it, and they're very, very nice people. We're still friendly today. Even though broke up about 10 years ago, and they're all sort of like scattered.
Yes.
But it was fantastic. I had a great time. I loved playing in the band, and it was just really nice to have a steady paycheck coming in too.
Yeah. I mean,
really nice.
Yeah, especially back in those days, it was like if you had a house gig, that was great. I remember we had one of the bands I was in a band called Showbiz Kids. And,
I heard of you guys.
Yeah, and we had a couple house gigs over the years. We ended up, I'm trying to remember where we ended up in a house gig. One of them was for a while. What we did is we rented our PA system out to Gary Taylor's, and our sound man Mike Faloney. I don't know if you know Mike. But Mike Filoni took the PA and the lights, and him and his girlfriend became the light and sound crew at the Gary Taylor. So we rented that out, and then we would just take a small little PA system and a few cans, lights, and do the B circuit, and so we spent like 3 weeks at the Nelson place, and then back then, and then we'd go in the 70s, and then we'd go for 4 weeks at Murphy's Pub, and we'd go in Seymour there, and so we would just like dance around to a couple places, but it wasn't very. We didn't move a lot. It was almost like a house gig for most of the time, because we'd go in there for 3 weeks, then we'd go to the other place for 4 weeks, bounce back to the other place for 4 weeks, and we just keep going back between about 3 bars, and that was all we did. But we made a lot of money, steady money,
Oh yeah, so important too.
Yeah.
I did a lot of that touring too. I know you, worked through Nellis agency back in the day. So, but the thing to me about being on the road back then was that you felt it was like your birthday if you had 2 weeks in one place, because then you had your Sunday off where you didn't have to travel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were around back. You probably were, but there was a time when there was no. If you were, say, playing in Prince George, and then you had to get Smithers. I'm sorry, no. If you're playing up the road from say Prince George, like that was the hub. So if you're on the northern side, you'd have to travel down to Prince George to go up to Smithers, but it'd take like 17 hours. But there wasn't any true road across. There's no crow flies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would frequently happen, with us down. If we had a week someplace there, a week someplace else. But I'll be honest with you, I never got really tired of that. I could live on the road. I'm like Willie Nelson. I just liked it. I always used to ride shotgun when we're in the front. When we're traveling at night.
So do I a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, because first of all, I can't sleep when I'm in transit anyway.
Yeah.
Just like I close my eyes, someone goes, "Wow, did you see that?" Like in other words, like somebody tried to overtake and run us off the highway, so I could never sleep. So I saw all these beautiful sights from the shotgun, and I felt it was my kind of duty to keep the driver awake.
Yeah. I've done some. I've fell asleep at the wheel a couple times, right? And it was pretty scary. Like I guess I didn't fall asleep for very long, but like a few seconds, and I'd wake up and everybody was sleeping in the van, right? And I'd wake up and I go like, holy smoke! And then one of the guys goes, "What's the matter?" I says, "I fell asleep. We're still on the road." I says, I'd say, "I'm pulling over," and I'd pull over, right, and say, somebody else drive, or I'm going to sleep, right? Because I says, I don't know what the hell happened there, but I did that twice, and up by Quesnel and stuff, and where I forget Quesnel, all around that area, and then it was just like I just said, never again, I will do that. So I never did that. But I think about routing too. I remember back in the days, you could drive. Like one time we got off, we were playing in Port Hardy, and on the island, and then we were off. We didn't have anything booked the next week, and then an agent phones me up and says, "I've got a gig for you guys," and I go, "Oh yeah, where?" He said, "Medicine Hat."
Okay.
I says, "You know how long it's going to take to get there, and how much money?" And he goes, "Oh, you can do it in a day." I says, "No." I says, "We're not going there." "Well, you'll be out of work." I says, "I'd rather be out of work back home in Vancouver than to be doing that. Something will pop up." And then the next week, the old, the Roxy's there now, Jack's Hanging Tree, right? And we ended up in Jack's Hanging Tree the next week. Anyways, we lucked out. The band got sick, so we took the gig over that week anyway. So we got an in-town gig the next week anyway. So
well, that was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
I was talking about that routing thing. The guys who were doing the agencies back then, they really didn't give a rat's ass about this.
No, they didn't. They didn't care.
I could put you any place, right? That's why I was saying that. Sometimes you'd have these gigs, and all they do is put a pin in the map, right? They didn't take into account that pen might be 500 or 600 miles from where you were, and then you had to go another 500 or 600 miles. Not that much, but you could drive that much.
Exactly, yeah, Steve. I know, it's insane. I could, and sometimes you didn't have a choice. You had to do it because just to get yourself back towards home, right? Rooting back or rooting somewhere and hoping you're on your way back. Unreal, I know. And so like you said, it was good to have house gigs for a while. That's great.
Yeah.
And then you get tight too. You must get really tight as a band, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to Mike, the guy I couldn't think of a second ago. Mike, who was he's a multi-instrumentalist of Killarney. He could play anything, really. Anyway, so he went after he got a job as a manager at the local Long and McQuaid's, right? So anytime I was popping down there, I'd stop in and see Mike. And we were just having a chat. We just ended up talking about local bands. And I said, a local band that's original is lucky to maybe play 1 gig a month. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a 45-minute set maximum, right? Anyway, I said to Mike, okay, so you and I, now we used to do 5:45s a night.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my thing. So, if you can't get better after 5:45-minute sets a night, you aren't trying or you're hopeless, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you got better, you couldn't help to get better. You had to get better because it was just part of the thing. Anyway, so I said, the reason why our generation of musicians are so good is that we had all this, not forced practice, but I said, look, the average band maybe does 12 gigs a year, all right? So 12:45, so that's 2.5 days of our week. We had more experience than a band does in a year in 2.5 days because we played 12 45-minute sets on, say, a Monday, a Tuesday, and half a Wednesday. And you do that for months and years at a time, and it's pretty hard to get thrown after that.
Yeah.
And, you've seen it, I'm sure, where all these kids come up and they're writing and they're playing. And it's not that they don't have any potential, because they do, but they just don't get a chance to play enough.
Exactly.
Work.
Yeah, that's so true.
Possible.
Yeah, that's like I once talked to, interviewed Mark LaFrance, right? And Mark, that shouldn't be going off again. So Mark LaFrance was talking to me, and he was mentioning to me that we were talking away, and he says, if you didn't, we used to play so much and practice so much. He says, of course we got really good at our craft. He says, nowadays, the kids play maybe once in a blue moon, right? And that's about it. And of course they're sloppy and they're not tight yet, or they're not there yet, because he says they just don't have the time. They don't get enough time in, right?
Absolutely correct. Yeah, I think that's probably what helped my son Cole. Now this is his first band, but he's very, very conscientious. If you listen to his solos, he actually he'll sit down and he'll work it out. He doesn't just sit back and jam and.
No, he sounds great. Cole, you can tell Cole works at it. When I see when I've seen you guys play, Cole is definitely he's serious about what he's doing, and he wants
very serious.
Yeah, and he wants to do a good job. You can see it. I can see it on stage. Yeah, I agree with you, Stephen. He's really, you're lucky. He's an asset. Your son is definitely an asset.
Yeah, and that was the cool thing, because he had like a full day's work. He's working not construction, but landscaping stuff. Right? He's out in the outdoors. So he'll come in after a long day of work. Now he's young, of course, so you got all the energy. But he'll disappear, and he'll play his guitar. And I'm saying, that song that I wanted to do, he says, I haven't finished working it out yet. I said, come on, you know what I mean? But it's always worth it. It's always worth it because he just surprises the hell out of me every time. I'm going, wow, that was great.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he's lucky in a sense because he got in a band that, like myself, Mark, and Peter, had spent a lot of years playing.
Yeah.
So we kind of knew we had shorthand, for getting things together.
Yeah.
And I could mention something, you get somebody, I'd like a beat like this, and you're drumming knows what you're talking about. And so Cole came into a structure, so he didn't have to flail around with kids his own age to get to that point himself, which probably wouldn't have been able to do, like I say, because he just would not literally have had the time to do it. So he's got the structure that we provide him with, plus his own innate pig-headedness about getting it right. It irritates the hell out of me because I like to get things done, but he's correct and I'm wrong. And that's why I like having the group aspect of it, because, he outvotes me on that, and I'm happier for it, and the band's better for it.
Yes, and your Stephen Ford project is, like I said, I find it really interesting. And I guess a good word is, I told Rod Nolan this when we were watching you guys play at the Princeton once. I said the Stephen Ford project are really refreshing, and I says it's nice to see an act like that is unique and different on the scene. And I mean that. I'm not, it's not just a compliment. And when I watch you guys play, that's what I like about the band. I go, it's different every time for me, and that's important because when you're in the crowd, it's not sounding the same. It's not the same thing all the time, right?
Sure.
And I like that. It creates I guess I said to Rod, a fresh ideas and fresh sound. My ears, I guess the word is my ears don't get tired. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, I thank you very much. I do appreciate that. I mean, musicians will always come up to you and say, "Oh, that's great," or something like that. But it's really I get a compliment from someone like yourself who's been there and got a great band himself. And, to hear that, it does make me feel good, and I do appreciate you saying it. And
no, I mean it, Stephen, because it does sound great.
I know it's sincere, I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, I enjoy it a lot because, like, I told Mark, I says, it's a good band. I said, it's a really good band. It's different. I says, that's the thing I like about it. Nobody sounds like the Stephen Ford band. You know what I mean? Like, it's not generic-y sounding like anybody else. And that's important because you don't get that these days. Like we said when you're talking about bands in the 70s and stuff and 80s and 90s, like a lot of these bands that we knew or we grew up with in the city or bands we idolized or musicians and stuff, they all had a unique style, and that's that is just like you said, it's gone out the door now. It's kind of cookie cutter kind of stuff now, right? Everybody has to sound like. We played last night at the Roxy, and we played with another band, and they were good. They were really good. I was impressed with them, and the thing is, they had their own sound, but they still had a touch of what of like a 90s sounding band, right? You know what I mean? So which was good because I could relate. But what I did like about them is that at the same time they were trying to get away. It was almost like you could see the struggle on stage. They had that 90s influence, like Nirvana kind of thing, and it was great. It was good, but you could see them kind of trying to pull away from it at the same time, like in their own songs. And so I kind of thought, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of I told them, I says, it's entertaining because I'm watching you guys struggling on stage to find your own identity. You know what I mean? Like it's happening. You can see it. You can see they're going to reach something that's going to be their own style, and it's just a matter of time, right? But they were good. They were good. I mean, the band musicianship for a bunch of young guys. Yeah, Steve Eby would said, yeah, they're pretty good band, right? Pretty decent band, right? Good players. They're like your son. They're all really good players.
Well, that's good too, because technique, in service of creativity, is really important, and it's really the best part of the creative, best part of technique is you can use it creatively. You're not trying to be like Eddie Van Halen or somebody else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It was a very, very tiresome thing for me.
Yeah. Same with me. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, we got this idea. A lot of kids, and I, like when you're talking about the band, I just wanted to put a little addendum to that. Is that that's great that you saw that and you saw that in them and told them about it. The only hope is that they can stay together long enough, to do it.
Yeah, and it's so hard to, like we're saying, yeah.
3 or 4 years to get it. At this rate, if they're only playing, like you were saying, like a few gigs a year, or as I was saying, like 12 times at the most.
Yeah.
Plus everybody's got, like other influences. They're getting tired of not making any money. They're getting tired of this, So that's the tough thing about having an original band, especially the one you just mentioned that had what you saw to be real potential to evolve into something special. Can they stay together long enough? Can they get enough gigs to find that little magic moment where everything comes together? They look at each other and go, yes, now we got it.
Yeah, now it's clicking. Yeah.
Now it works.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. And the funny thing too, when I was talking to Mark Lafromme, like I told you a while back, and he said to me, the only thing he said, I think you might agree with this, Stephen. He says, people always ask me, one, do you like to go back to the days when you guys are playing every night? And Mark says, no, he doesn't want to go back there anymore. He says because I didn't make all that much money,
Yeah.
I know. He says, I got my chops down. He says, I got my chops in, and I got my yayas out, he said, but I sure didn't make a lot of money. He said, I kind of happy I don't have to do that every weekend anymore.
Yeah, and I get it, It's like, well, back in the time we were playing, we were in the same, like age group as our audience. So, in your late teens, early 20s, mid-20s, and early 30s, people are still around the same age as you are still going out.
Yes.
But then when you get into your 40s or a little later, those people are at home or they can't afford to go out anymore, or they're tired of doing that anymore and they can't hang it up. So you're playing to a bunch of people that don't necessarily know the songs you're playing.
Exactly.
And you go, well, and they kind of look at you as kind of a bad band or whatever, so I can understand what he's saying. With such a buzz when you're playing to people around your age group, because they're taking it too. They're getting their first hangovers and, hookups and everything else right at the same time you're out there playing your music.
Yeah.
Some good friends. But, like I said earlier when we were talking, is that it is nice when you get the occasional person that's in their 20s coming up to you and saying, wow, you guys are great, I really love what you're doing. Because then, you kind of feel, well, what we're doing here isn't just for our age group, it's kind of multi-generational. That's a nice feeling for a writer and a band,
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, definitely especially when like people are appreciating the music, right, that you're written. That's important, right? I mean, that's when you're getting people. When you I guess my thing is I like it when I play a song I wrote and it brings a smile. It sounds corny, but it brings a smile to somebody's face. You know what I mean? Like because or they're smiling, they're tapping their toe, or getting up and dancing. Then you know what? That's great. Because then you go like, wow, I'm making somebody's moment. And I connected with somebody that I don't even know. I mean, the thing, like you said, when you were over and when you went over and toured over in Europe and stuff. I mean, that's sometimes the best. Like when I've done over in the States and stuff, when you meet people that you don't even know from Adam, and they love what you're doing, that's really rewarding. When they dig what you're doing. That, to me, that's even better than having your friends or your family watch you. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, I'm going to say something to you because just to illustrate your point, because as a writer yourself, you understand that it's a very solitary craft. You are sitting there by yourself with your guitar or whatever you compose on. It's you, blank piece of paper, and whatever instrument you're channeling your music through. So you have no idea where it's gonna land in somebody else's consciousness, right?
Yeah.
But when you're talking about going to another country and playing, which has happened, like I played, lived in Germany and played in England and all these places as well, right?
Yeah.
But one of the biggest, I think maybe it might have been, it's an all-timer, and I'll tell you what it was. We were playing at the Railway Club for the first time, and it must have been summer, second time maybe, when we first started out. And because it was warm, they had the windows open, and you know what the Railway Club's like, right?
Yeah.
Windows were open. Anyway, so we're playing our songs, and we're getting a nice reaction. I love playing that. I love playing at Princeton, and I love playing the Railway Club. They're my two favorite places to play. Anyways, they're playing a song, and we got a nice reaction from the crowd. People coming up and say, "Wow, that's really good," which is always very satisfying, and good. Anyway, so somebody had come up, either me or Cole, I remember if it was me, they said it so long ago, and they said, I was passing by, just walking by, and I heard the music coming out through the window. So I said, he liked it so much, he came in and bought a ticket just so he could watch us play. And I thought, what? The guy's outside. Now, most people would have just stopped for a second and thought, that's pretty cool, and just walked on. But he was just, he came in and listened to it and paid his admission just to come. And I thought, man, that's amazing. And that's probably one of the best compliments I've ever had.
Yeah. That's when you know it's well worth what you're doing. You know what I mean? I agree with you. Yeah, when people those kind of experiences are really good. Yeah, when we were playing, when we once playing in down one of the last times we played in Los Angeles, we were playing at the Whiskey at a Go-Go, and we were after we finished, we were leaving, and Harvey, my bass player, Harvey was sitting there. We're gassing up, and we had the sound man from the one of the sound men from the Whiskey came out, and I guess he went across the street to the gas station to get something, and then he says, you guys are really, 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 really good. He says, I really enjoyed your band. He says, I hope you guys come back again real soon. And, Harvey was just like smiling. He's going like, wow. He says, no, I really enjoyed your band. Your band is really good. And those kinds of things you like, like that, that, they're appreciative of you, right? And Harvey says, wow, I didn't think, he didn't have to do that. I says, well, he's telling you how he feels,
Well, that is fantastic. And that kind of reinforces my feeling. I always said this to people, look, if you can impress the sound man and the bartenders,
oh yeah,
you've got a good band because they hear everything. But, it's funny to bring back some memories because I used to go to Whiskey quite a lot.
Yes.
And I know exactly where you were, and you guys had to go up that small little passageway up the back.
Yeah.
And to that little room up at the top, right? And knowing the fact that you're sitting on the same seats, probably that the door sat on.
Oh yeah, everybody
else.
Yeah.
Did you feel the history?
Yeah. I do. I felt the history. I actually tons of times told. A quick story about that. One time we were playing there, and the night before Alice Cooper was there. So I got to know the monitor mixing guy, and his name was I forget what his name. Well, I can't remember his name. And he was a super nice guy. And he called us like his northern cousins. He said, "Oh, you're my northern cousins, right?" And we started laughing, right? And we started talking to him. And so I said, "Oh, Alice Cooper was here last night. How was the show?" He said, "Really, really good." And I says, "Oh, did Alice Cooper use that mic stand over there last night?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "You want to use that mic stand?" "Yeah." He says, "Did Alice Cooper sing in that mic?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, I'm going to use that mic."
So fucking cool. cool.
I know. It's just like, and then we get this, Stephen. We go to the Rainbow up the street for something to eat, and after we played, and who's in the Rainbow is Ray Manzarek.
Oh, Kimura, really?
Yeah. So then we sat and talked to Ray Manzarek, and then he said, if I would have known that, I would have come down and seen you guys at the whiskey tonight. And he was super nice guy. And like, so it's kind of interesting how that stuff happens, like, yeah, like you said, yeah, you can feel the history in that place. Definitely, you feel the history. Yeah, you can.
I lived it there. I saw good bands that came along a little bit later, and that started out there, and then they got big. Bands like 3000 Night and all that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what was that band? Jay Giles.
Jay Giles band. Yeah.
Yeah, all these guys were playing starting out, and I was really respectful, but at one point I thought, fuck, I got to find out. So I walked up the back stairs. It's like about 3 feet wide. You know. So I walked up and I just put my head through the door or the curtains just to have a look at that. It's a really small little green room, I guess.
It is. It's tiny. Yeah.
It's really small. Oh man, So I looked back on it and I thought, well, that was the place I think if I was going to play in L.A., that would be there.
Yeah.
I think, that would be it, because the stage isn't that big, really.
No, it's not. It's not that big, no.
Yeah, my brother played there, and he used to go to the whiskey as well. I'll just tell you a quick story about it, because you're talking about Alice Cooper being there. So Robert, my brother, had gone to see, I think, Gary Moore.
Oh, yes.
Gary Moore's Get Up. Anyway, so Led Zeppelin had played that night, and Robert hadn't gone. He'd seen him before. Anyway, so all of a sudden, Gary Moore's playing, and this guy kind of walks up. He's got this long coat on, and he turns around, and it's like John Bonham.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Okay. So John Bonham goes up on stage and sits in, and I think Plant might come up and sing, but Gary Moore would not turn over the guitar to Jimmy Page. He just wasn't going to do it. So fuck this, I'm going to play it myself, right?
Yeah.
All little things like that were going on all the time back then, right?
Wow.
And superstars, right? So that's why I loved it. And, I used to see people from time to time there, too, like to say. And it was always very laid back, nobody was bugging anybody,
No, it's a great venue.
Yeah, I really respected that, so I wasn't going to walk up and talk to somebody.
Yeah, no, I mean all those rooms have like that whole area down there is like it's full of great musicians too, right? You just meet tons of people everywhere, right? And like you said, the history of that whole strip too, that whole area, like that whole area of bars and stuff. There's all kinds of people play there. When we played there that last time, I had a couple girls in the band that are young, and one of the girls singing with me at the time, I told her, I says, because she was a Janis Joplin fan. I says, Janis Joplin sat in this green room. I said,
yeah.
So she's going like, and when you go on that stage, Janis Joplin was on that stage, and she just went like, wow, like she was overwhelmed, like she just went, holy smoke, right? I says, have fun. I says, the best thing you can do is just have fun, right? I says, if you're having fun, it's going to go good, right? I says, that's all you have to do. Just bring your A game. Because I said the biggest thing about playing, place down there, Stephen, was the best thing when you're playing those kind of venues. I guess you know when you've been over in Europe and stuff.
Yeah.
You bring your A game, and then when you come back home and you're playing in front of people, you can bring your A game. Because I had the drummer we had at the time, Colin Farrell. When he came down with us last time, Colin came back and he says, "You're right. Every time I'm playing now in Vancouver, every place I play 100% after I played the whiskey." He says,
yeah.
Why did that happen? I says, because at the whiskey you had to bring your A game, because that stage commands you to do that, because all the people that ever played on that stage. So I says, you have to live up to it.
I agree with that 100%.
And I says, you go and play these places where there's always, people that have, talented people. I says, you're going to have to rise up to that. If you don't rise up to that, I says, you're never going to get there, right?
And also, I think you're right about that. And I played, when I did this little cross-country tour with the Stoders, we played a place called the Horseshoe Tavern.
Right.
And so, in Toronto. So, I'm looking at this place. It's a fair-sized stage for pub, but I'm looking at the original posters on the wall. Now, I know for sure that the Police played there. I think it's their first gig in Canada. But I was looking at the posters on the wall, and there was like Chuck Berry.
Wow.
And then it was just going all the way across, right? It was a really nice room. I really liked it in there. But you get that feeling, okay, maybe there's something, that residue that was left over from these big-time guys, and you're picking up a little bit of the excess energy that was left on the stage, too. You know what I mean? That kind of like osmosis, right? You're picking up something.
Yeah, exactly.
Being around it. And maybe that's it too. I mean, I know what you're saying.
I think you're 100% right. I think that's exactly what you get. You pick that up off them, and then it's sort of you bring it out too. Yeah.
Well, you've been in, probably, if you travel around. I know you have, but when you travel around, sometimes you go into a place that's absolutely electrically charged because of the people that have been in it. Say, sometimes. So I remember I was in California. I went into San Luis Obispo. Was kind of like the first, not Pueblo, but one of the first places, churches that were made in California, but around since the 1700s. And there's a little chapel inside of it, right? And it's only about 5 feet by 5 feet. It's just really small. And I walked in, and it's like being drenched in thousands upon thousands of people that have been in there and left their energy in that place, right? And it's kind of like that, I think. You can leave a residue, a good one or a bad one. You've probably been in places that are spooky. You want to get the fuck out of town, really. You know what I mean? And, it's kind of like clubs you walk into, like right away you could feel this anger, and other places you feel this happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
There's definitely something, the walls collect these things. The stage collects these things, right?
Yeah.
So when you're there, you kind of get a little boost. And if you've got it, if you're able to conduct that, absorb it, and then transmit it, you can be as good as you're going to get.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100% on that, Stephen. That's so true. And then that also transfers into your songwriting, like we were talking about, and when you go to record and stuff, right? You become, recording is a whole other animal altogether, right?
Completely.
You just got to learn to be in the studio. Just you got to be focused and be able to have fun, but be able to deliver at the same time, right? Because and bring that creativity with you too, because that's unique too.
Well, this is the thing I found when I was singing. Solo actor in Gastown, I was singing probably at if I was doing a whole night, maybe 40, 50 songs a night singing with myself. Right? So you do that every night. You sing 250 songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My voice got really, really good. But then after a while, when I started Killarney, they had like 5, 6 people in the band with me when I joined the 6 people. Five of them were lead singers.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really get a chance to do maybe one song, and towards the end I wasn't singing at all. So I kind of lost that ability to get into the studio and just, sort of bring that thing that I'd had before, the quality of voice, right? So I find that I have to get to what I call an emotional truth thing, because I can't really, kind of scream and go for it anymore than it's required. So what I do when I'm recording a song is before I start, I never just go up to the mic and just start to wail away or sing or whatever. I always take 10, 15 minutes just to get into a state. And now this is going to sound really weird, because you've heard the songs, they're not all kind of like, some of them are quite rocky, right?
Yeah.
So what I do is, I think of other singers, they're not particularly sort of strong and, crazy singers. and but they have emotional truth. So Paul Simon is the guy I think about.
Yeah.
Now, if you listen to Paul Simon, he's not a great singer, but absolutely everything he does has emotional truth to it.
Yeah, yes,
He
yes.
things, you believe what he's singing, right? That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah.
So what I do is I sit back for a couple of minutes. First of all, I do some vocal warm-ups, right? I have to do that. But then I think, okay, I'm going to get into this state where I really know what I'm singing is going to be really true. Really true. I'm not going to say these words. I'm going to speak them the way I mean them, the way they were written. And if I can do that, which I try to do, then the song will come across. At least you think I believe what I'm talking about, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then if you believe what the singer, I'll tell you what, I'm going to just stop this for 1 second. I just got to say this to you. I always say this to people. See, I want you to, say, well, how do you, sing or whatever. I think, look, think about something right now. Just don't tell me what it is. But think of your favorite singer and you're singing your favorite song. And give them a minute to do it. And they say, okay, yeah. I said, I can tell you exactly why it is. Because the singer, you believe the singer believed what they were singing. Right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And they always say, yeah, I mean, that's it. The singer always believed what they were singing, and that's why it connected with them. And I think that's really the key. If you think, like Patsy Cline was talking about that when she was on stage, she said she'd always look at one person in the audience and sing to them. So, but it sounded like she was singing to everybody because she was singing to one person, but the effect was everybody thought she was singing to them.
Yes.
So it's really important to get that state if you want to connect to people, at least on that level.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's so true. That's true. That's very true. You know who I watched the other day talking about jazz and blues influences and stuff? I don't know if you've seen that documentary yet. It's a documentary. It's not a full documentary. It's got somebody acting it. I don't know who the lady is, but Billie Holiday.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
It is really good documentary. It is really good, and listening to the way she sang and stuff, and how she kind of took songs took them in her own way, and just did them, and it was just like, the band would play the standard song, the standard way, bluesy kind of standard, but she would take the vocals and she would just twist it and turn it into the way Billie Holiday would perceive it. And it just like, I just stood there and went like, when I was watching this, I went, this is really good. Like this, no wonder people talk about Billie Holiday. Like she actually knew what the friggin' hell she was doing. She was that good. And I was just like, wow. How she just took a standard and just turned it into how she would sing it and how she might have wrote that tune. And she just takes the melody and twists it. And it's just like, wow, I was really impressed.
Well, that's why they're called greats. That's why they are the greats. Is that their effect is always multi-generational. We might have really, really dug some people back when we were younger, and you listen to them and think, oh, that was good. But then you listen to someone like Billie Holiday, and you go, yeah, that's why she's still around. If you know what I mean, not around physically, but she's still.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and you can see why she influenced so many people, right? You actually can see the generations that she's influenced, all the way up to pop stars nowadays. You can see it. You can actually see it.
That's the thing, though, is that if people get the idea that they want to sing like her, that's one thing. But if they want to sing emotionally, see, this is the thing. It's not necessarily always the technique or the style.
Yeah.
It's what she put in. She's actually living inside the notes.
Yeah.
Right. And once Carlos Santana was talking about that, and I didn't quite understand it. And he said something about you got to get inside the note, and that didn't mean anything to me. I had to think about it for a while, and then I understood what he meant.
Yeah.
People like B.B. King are inside the note, right? And people like that.
Yeah, exactly what you mean. And that's hard to do. That's hard
to. You got to think about that. You really do.
Yeah.
Roy Orbison's
Yeah.
inside the note. You notice that if you listen, it's a good example of what I'm trying to say is if you listen to Roy singing like I was all right for a while, that like I was all right for a while.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yes.
When you listen to that, you are in his world.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And Katie Lang was talking about that. Because she did a song with Roy Orbison.
Yes, she did. That's right.
She gets inside the note too.
Yeah.
And people that understand that are the ones that kind of, even if they don't make it super big, they're the ones that kind of last.
Yeah.
Because generations, they just get introduced one way or another to an artist like that. And then the reason, people would, even kids in their teens would listen to Roy Orbison and they could feel something they had not experienced yet lost.
Yeah, that's true. And that's like quickly here too. Like I watched the other day on my phone, I was at work and I had a few minutes and I was watching this thing on Julian Lennon bumped into Paul McCartney, right? In an airport.
Yeah.
So he took a selfie and Paul and him and sent it off. So it's all over the internet, right? So anyways, I was looking at the pictures just for something to do. And then one looking at the comments. So I scrolled down and pressed it and it was a video off the new Beatles thing, Get Back one, and it was a video of John and Paul working on Get Back. And Ringo was just keeping the beat for them, and they were working out the lyrics. They had no lyrics figured out yet. So Paul was singing something, and and rolling it off John, and John was listening, and they're going back and forth. And finally, John let Paul sing this one line, and then John just sang it back to Paul. And when John sang the song, it was like what you're saying, Stephen. He was already inside the note because you could hear when he sang it. You just didn't know that it was. You could tell it was just not John Lennon singing, but John was capturing what it should sound like, and I guess he was kind of relaying that back to Paul because Paul quite hadn't got it yet. He was too busy trying to find the lyrics, and he wasn't doing the melody as much. But John sang the melody and the words back to Paul, and it was just I went, wow,
song almost, right?
It was, what? It was mind blowing. I was just holy shit! I forgot how well this guy could fucking do that, right?
And he was doing it just off the cuff, right? He wasn't. Because to me, I prepare.
Yeah, it was right off the top. You're right. Exactly. Exactly, Stephen. He was just right off the top. I just holy smoke. No wonder he was as good as he was. I get it. You listen, you go, now I get it, right?
Yeah.
And that's our producer where we produce with both my bands, Bill Buckingham, and Bill said to me one day, he says, John and Paul, he says sometimes they never came up with lyrics until they were actually ready to record.
Wow.
He says they just didn't want to nail it down until they actually were in the studio ready to do it, and they would work on it just before they went in and did it. And warming up their voices at the same time while they're doing it. And I says, wow. He says that
I wouldn't even go into the studio unless I had every syllable. And every I dotted.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same way. I have it like that, but the producer Bill, I've worked with him for so long. I'm okay with it. He'll come up and he go, I don't like that word, and I want to change that word, and I'm okay with it because he's really talented, and so I'm okay. I got no ego there about that, or if I think it's going to make it better, I tell him, yeah, that's better. Let's go with that phrase, right? He doesn't change it drastically. He just he'll listen and say, if I say, go to the jungle, he'll say something else.
Yeah.
go through the jungle, right? He'll change that.
Yeah, I get it.
And
That's great to have somebody you can trust like that. And also too, I commend you for being able to take that or do that. I don't mean take, but do that because a lot of people get really, really precious about every syllable.
Oh, I know.
I am the artiste here, aren't I? And it can get in the way of good. Perfection can get in the way of good, and what you want is good. The best thing about if you're a writer, it's like you want to be a really good, consistent writer because people know that you're going to be good every time, right? But if you're a great writer and then you only write something good, everybody thinks you're failing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's pretty fucked up, to be honest with you. I mean, the standard you set yourself when you hit something that's so perfect, then all of a sudden you're writing a great, really good song. But I know it's mean. It's like if people can make that better, and you're willing to listen to that and accept it and see that it is a bit better, and go for it. I mean, that's a good thing.
And it's hard to do too, Stephen, because sometimes you go in there and you're so used to singing it that one or two words a certain, in the line. Now they've changed, and I'm doing it, and I get stuck, right? You get frustrated, and then Bill just starts laughing. He goes, "Don't worry, we can go over it 1,000 times," and I'm like,
"Oh yeah,"
and I'm going like, "I hate that word now."
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
Yeah, the guy that we work with, his name is Steve Jewett. He does all of that. He's a fantastic guy, and he's one of those rare people. He's a really excellent first class musician, but he also knows the math behind all the recording engineering and everything else. I mean, he's pretty good. Anyway, there's one particularly. Somebody had done this once. And I was doing this song that's on the album called When I Got Away. And I'm playing the song, the chord, and he says, that chord doesn't work. Or that inversion of the chord doesn't work. And I've been playing it like that for 20 years, right? And I thought, okay, I'll try it. And I just couldn't do the inversion, keep the rhythm going, right? And I said, Dave, if you want to add that later or have Cole do it, I'll play it this way. If you want to, you can bring it down a bit. But you know what I'm saying, right? You're playing it for like ever.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean. You start singing it and you're tripping over it in your head because now you're not singing. You have to think about it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's really tough, right? He only did it once. I don't know if he was right, but he's one of those guys, if he says something, he never inserts himself. But
right.
I asked him for an opinion, and it's contrary to what I'm doing. I always go with it because he's one of those people that's intuitive, but in the very best way.
Yes.
Better if you do it this way.
Yeah.
You know, it is. Even if I don't like it at the time.
Yeah, that's
I've
interesting.
learned to trust him.
Yeah.
And I've never been disappointed.
Unreal.
Pretty good. But you don't have that very often with.
No, you don't.
They mostly just want to get you out the door, collect the dough.
Yeah, and go.
It.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's good that you have that. That's just like I have with Bill. It's really good with Bill because Bill. What Bill likes. He told me about me. He says, he says what I like about you that you listen. If I think I got a good idea, you're listening. I says, well, you're producing. So I says, I says, I trust you in your producing because I'll tell you if I don't like it, but I'm not going to tell you that it's I don't like it just because I want to be right. I says that's just I want the song to breathe, and have its own life. I don't want to squish it, right? And I've had people do that. I've had people in my band, will listen and go, well, the drummer, I put a double kick in this part here, and he took this out and took that out. I says, yeah, well, he's the producer. Oh yeah, well, who is he? And then I would, I remember one time my drummer said that, and I says, well, he's produced. Let me see. He produced Sarah McLachlan. He's produced Two Country Guys. I says I can't remember the country guys, but what's her name? I'm trying to remember the lady singer.
Or anybody like that.
Who was it?
Katie Lang?
No, not Katie, but it was Patricia Conroy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he produced Patricia, and he's produced. So I turned to the drummer. I says, "Well, he's produced Sarah McLachlan and da 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 and da da da," and he just went, "What?" I says, "Yeah." So I says, and he's good friends with Bob Rock. So I says, when we were recording one of our heavy rock songs, our guitar player wanted the same guitar sound as a Metallica guy, the rhythm guy, and he said he called up Bob and he got the same machine to run the same processor to run the guitar through, the exact same one. And I said, if that isn't, getting the job done, I don't know what is, right? So I said, I looked at the drummer. I says, he's got awards. He's got awards for country music and Sarah McLachlan. So I says, I think he's got enough say in knowing what he's doing, right? So so I said, he takes out your kick drum a little bit. He feels he has to,
Well, this is how I kind of feel about the situation. My ego, I don't have like a massive ego. You have to have some kind of an ego because you have to have some kind of a point of view, right? I mean, you can't
exactly.
Like anything like this in music. But my ego does not trump somebody having a better idea.
No.
And to be honest with you, like I let things pass that I just did not care for at the time because, like in a way I was outvoted in a sense, like you get something in your head, you got it one way, and then somebody adds, a different ingredient to the gumbo, right? And doesn't taste like gumbo to you anymore, but it's better. It's this kind of thing like, okay, all I honest to God care about is if the song is going to sound a piece of, I won't call it the art, but the song is going to sound the best it can sound, right? And the arrangement's the best it can be.
Right.
And if that's what counts, because, you can't go back and do it again, I mean, once something, with these songs from the 60s and 70s, half the guys aren't alive, you can't do it again, right? So, you've got to get it and leave it the way it was, the best that it can be, and trust that it's the best that it can be, and let anything that you're sort of, niggling about or not quite happy with, and if other people are saying, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, it would sound better if I done it this way. No, leave that out of the equation.
Yeah.
Leave your ego, your sense of having to be right out of it, and trust the people around you like I do.
Yeah.
And it's going to come out better.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely is, Stephen. You're totally right. Yeah, and like I said, I really like. Yeah, I mean, everybody in your band you got going is, they're really good musicians, and your son really dedicated. You're really lucky there, right? You got a really good band, and I'm a fan of your band. I wanted to let you know that because I enjoy the music a lot, and
that's really kind of you. It's always like like we've been opening for you guys now. I don't know, maybe half a dozen times. And it seems like a really nice combination of acts. You've got. You're like probably the best singer in the city for that kind of stuff. It's like really emotional, and you can really hit the notes, and it's always a pleasure to listen to you.
You wouldn't noticed it last night. I think I caught COVID about a month ago, so so it hit me hard, and I still got it in my lungs a bit, right? Because last night when I was singing, I wasn't short on breath, but it was tight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. As a singer, I was feeling really tight, so I had to really. I started pushing, and then I thought I better not push too hard. I'll just pull back a bit, right? And just try to be aware that my lungs aren't right there yet, right? It was interesting. It was an interesting night. I did okay, but I knew that I was struggling a little bit at times, right? But that's ego too. After a while, that's your ego getting in the way. Like oh, am I doing okay? You're thinking as you're going, and I'm going like, no, stop it, just have fun.
Yeah, and the thing you mentioned earlier about fun is something that's lacking sorely.
Yeah.
In music these days. One of the things my enjoyment a little bit is watching the bands, and you don't see anybody smiling anymore.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
None of them.
Good point,
You know,
good point.
One of the things that got me going, because I was like really not happy teenager at all, right?
Yeah.
I just didn't have anything going for me. And the only thing that really gave me any joy was the music. And there was a couple of bands, well, almost all the bands. I mean, the Animals never smiled, but no one's really aren't smilers. But if you looked at the Beatles and a band you probably would remember called Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Oh, yeah. I love Paul Revere and the Raiders.
And I looked at them, and I was just sort of living through them in a sense that these guys are having the time of their lives.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. They really were having fun.
Yeah, great band, too. I've seen them live twice. Really good band.
But, you know, they conveyed that to me, and in a way, it might have sort of been my trigger to want to be in a band, is because, I mean, here are people having a really, really good time.
Yeah, you're right, too. I mean, there were bands like back then, bands like Paul Revere and the Raiders. How about Dave Clark 5? Like those.
I think that's the only one I was going to mention. Yeah.
Yeah, they're smiling all the Dave Clark playing the drums,
Happy.
smiling.
You know, it wasn't like that stupid face-on grin that you see in Vegas.
No.
You know? It was like, we're really having a great ball here.
Yeah, because they're enjoying. Yeah, they were enjoying the shit out of it, right?
Yeah. Well, that they did feel good about what was going on. Plus, they happened to be great musicians and writers and singers, you know.
Yeah.
But all that happened, and that, you know, it's just gone. You know, you just can't see it. I don't know anybody that smiles anymore.
Well, and plus, I think too, not to get too much on the downside of things, but like, I think nowadays, like I was saying to somebody the other day, like you know, you go to shows, or you go watch bands play. What bands are around, like you're saying, especially locally. I think nowadays, I don't think like all the young people are really into what rock and roll is. They don't know what rock and roll is. Some of them, right?
No.
They only know it through their parents and which is, you know, us. You know, now we're the parents, and or the grandparents in my case sometimes too, right? So like you know. I mean, they don't know this stuff. So, like last night at the Roxy, there was a lot of young people there, and some of them were really appreciative. You know, like really appreciative, and some of them just they don't know. They don't. You know, like you know they're there to get high and have some drinks and flirt with each other and you know they're into that on the dance floor and. You know, it's and all that kind of old stuff that we did. The same thing was going on when we were playing younger, but the thing is, we knew what we were listening to, or what we were doing with the music, but they don't have any reference. I guess the word is they don't have. I can see that. Like I saw a couple of young girls last night. They were nice. They were watching us play, and I could tell by the look on their face that they just didn't understand what the hell we were doing. You know, like I don't think they had a clue, and they enjoyed it, but they didn't get it at all. And you know, I was just sort of like, I didn't feel like we didn't reach them. I just felt like I felt like that wasn't important to them. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
And I got told that once by one young person. He told me once. He says, I like listening to live music. He says, but he says, here's the thing. He says, I grew up playing video games. And he says, I don't know what live music is.
Wow.
And I went, wow. It's just like, okay. So he says, I'm not a fan. He says, it wasn't a steady diet for me, right? My parents maybe, but not me. And I says, no music at all? He says, yeah, hardly any music. He says, all video games. And I said, wow, how about sports? He says, a little bit of sports, but mainly video games. He says, that's what my culture is. Like my group of kids grew up. And I went, wow, that's insane, right? But I know.
That's not, well, I commend him for his insights, but my God,
That's wild, isn't it?
not a good thing to hear.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
That was interesting, though. It was an interesting concept, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
What he's saying, you know, I mean, certainly for some people. I just hope, you know, the thing is also too, if you look at what is successful, you know, like Taylor Swift and all these people, they don't have a problem with that. They go out and see her, you know what I mean? But there seems to be a lot of costumes and themes that they're relating to from, you know, we were talking earlier about the, you know, the American Idol kind of thing, is that it's kind of dressed up and spectacle. So
Yes.
would they like her as much if she was wearing a pair of jeans and a T-shirt and singing her songs? And I don't mean, I'm not putting it down her at all. I don't mean it that way. But if the spectacle wasn't there, would they be still coming out in droves?
Yeah.
And you know, the thing, you know, the weirdest thing is if you see one of the most successful singers, female singers, is Adele, and she's probably the last one that actually stands there and sings.
Yes.
Everybody else is being carried around like the Queen of Egypt with, you know, 3 people, you know, 10 backing dancers. I call them distractors.
That's a good word.
They distract from the fact there's no real melody there.
Yeah.
And the woman is being held over her head, sliding down poles, you know, dressed really provocatively.
Yeah.
And but at the end of it, you know, you're watching this spectacle, but and then I bet you if you ask like 100% of the people that listened to that song but watched it mainly, all right, can you sing the song or can you hum it back? And they'd be, huh?
Yeah. You're right.
They were just distracted by the fact.
They're watching the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was no substance to it.
I tell you one thing. I tell you one thing I saw. I always share this with some people. There's a band like they're not a glam rock band, but they're considered like a what do you call it? A goth band, right?
Yeah.
And they're from I think they're from Sweden, and they're called Ghost. I don't know if you heard of them. And anyways, the singer is probably, Stephen, if you ever get a chance to listen to him, he's probably one of the best singers I've heard in like 20 years. And so the band comes out all dressed up. So it, you know, they have that distraction, but they're all like unreal guitar players are just unreal. And they do the old 70s dual harmonies, and they come out in masks. And the guy sings, he comes out as a ghost.
Is that the name of the band, Ghost?
Yes, and you know what? The songs are pretty cool. They're pretty cool. There's some really good songs. They're hard rock / kind of pop, you know. But I went and saw the band live because somebody said the show is unreal, and I thought, okay, I'll go and see a spectacle. But when I went and watched the band musicianship was on, like 8 people on that stage. You know, like you got keyboard players, you got background singers, you got guitars, you got bass. You know, it's a full big band, right? And then you got this guy singing, who's walking around like in a ghost outfit, and he's unreal. He just like, I've never heard anybody sing like that. He sounds like a modern day version of maybe like Freddie Mercury. You know, he's that good. And I think he's better than Freddie Mercury myself, because he never sang a flat note, Stephen, in that whole show. I was waiting for something to go wrong, and I just stood there and I went, this is wild. This guy is really good. Like, and he's not young, because I can tell, but he wears a mask, you know, so they're older guys. You can tell they're you know, and they're probably their 40s or something, right? You know, but that's how they're getting away with everything with the kids, because they're all dressed up, right? They're all covered up, and so, but it was such a good show too. Like the playing was so good, and the songs were really good, and at the end of the day, I even forgot about all the theatrics.
Wow!
Because
that's something.
They were that good live. And I was just like, you know what? The guy singing was just a bloody amazing. I just went, this guy is probably the best singer I've heard live in maybe 10, 20 years. I says, I don't know why people are not clinging. And the sad thing was, Stephen, the Coliseum was half sold out.
Man.
Half.
Wow.
You know, and I'm just going, this is probably one of the better shows I've seen in a long time, musically and theatrically and everything, and it's half sold out. Like, how does this happen? But then you start to think, yeah, you know, the generations, it's different now, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, because I'll have to mention that to Cole, because besides all the other influences, he plays flamenco and everything else.
Yeah, great stuff, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's getting good at it. It takes a long time, but he really likes all that kind of death metal and goth music.
Yeah.
Big fan of all that. He goes to all those concerts, so I'll have to ask him if he might have been one of those people that was in the audience, because he knows about all those people. But
yeah, some of those bands are really good. They're unreal.
Yeah, they can be. Absolutely. I was just trying to think of the name of this one particular girl. A band, actually. They're called Lawrence. And, like Lawrence Little Gravy, right? It's spelled like Lawrence. And I think it's named after her. And I just came across her, and I'm trying to think of the name. For some reason, I was blank on the name of the song, but it's like, Don't Let Go or Don't Look Back, or something like that. I can't remember what it is. And if she had been around, she's probably in her late 20s, and it's very much like an indie-style band, right?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of singers in the background. Anyway, so I wish, if I can think of it, I'll let you know at some point. But the name of the band is Lawrence, and it's kind of like the acoustic version of it, Don't Look Back, or whatever it is. Anyway, so it starts out kind of indie, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go. And then all of a sudden she starts to sing. And I went, the hair stood up the back of my neck, and I went, what? I thought if she was around back in the day, she would be an equal to Janis Joplin.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I do not say that lightly, believe me. And I know you don't say that lightly about Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
Because, it's hyperbole and it does nobody any good. But this girl, young woman, I mean, it honest to God, she starts to sing and it's just like that, what the hell?
Yeah.
Out of her, and it was live. I mean, you could tell they were just singing in front of the mics, right?
Yeah, Steve, yeah.
It's like, you can always tell it's not live, obviously, because there's no microphones, right?
Yeah.
And she was also working the mic as well. Like she was laying back when it was too much of a noise. Not noise, but noise, but all of that. Anyway, she's worth checking out, and that's the band Lawrence. And I'll definitely tell Cole about this ghost thing as well.
Cool. I appreciate that. Well, I'm going to let you go, Stephen. It was great talking to you. And
Me too.
And we'll do this again, because I love talking to you. Because this is, I mean it. We've got lots to talk. I think we're not finished.
No, I think this is part one, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We'll be editing some of it, so to put it into a shorter time. But that's, and then we'll do it again sometime. That's how we sort of do it. But it's great talking to you. I mean, I'm a fan of your band, and that's great that you're gonna try some different stuff yourself right now, and get more, like you said, like doing the Bad Company stuff. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I hope you like it.
I will. I'm a fan of that band too. I tell you this quick story. I played once at a bar in out in I guess it'd be Harrison Mills area, and we were playing there, and it was a Sunday. You played there Friday and Saturday at the Sasquatch, and then on Sunday you would do a jam. So it was kind of like a drag. You had to drive all the way back out there on a Sunday. So we went back out there and do this jam. While we're sitting there setting up, and the guitar player guy I had with me at the time was in the Hard Rock Miners, and Pierre, And anyways, Pierre is setting his guitar up and stuff, and then we're talking to the drummer. All of a sudden, I look around the corner and I look and I go, "Is that Paul Rogers?" And I go look at my drummer. I says, "Is that Paul Rogers?" He goes, "Yeah, I think that's Paul Rogers." I says, "Well, he lives here now, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." So I look over again, and Paul Rogers sees me looking at him, and he's with some friends, and he goes, "It's me," like this, "Hey, it's me." Yeah. Yes, it's me. So I walk up to him and I said, "Hi, Paul," and he goes, "Hi." I says, "I thought that was you." And I said, "I hear you live here now." He goes, "Oh, word's getting around, eh?" And I says, "Yeah." And so he says, "You guys starting to do a jam?" I says, "Yeah." I says, "What are you up to?" He says, "I'm just with my friends. We're riding our bikes, our Harleys. We're just riding, doing a Sunday afternoon drive, right? And I says, "Oh." And he said, he goes, "You want me to come up and sing a song with you?" And I said, "Oh, fuck." I said, "Yeah, no problem." Yeah, I think so. So he came up and we did Stormy Monday, old blues standard, and he came up and he sang with us, right? It was pretty fucking good. Yeah, it was pretty.
That is so cool. I love that about him.
Yeah.
Those guys back then, they were really, like musicians. They weren't, like big time in it. They're just having fun.
Yeah.
I heard something akin to that. I think it was on Granville Street. Somebody was busking and just singing some either free song or a bad company. And Paul Rogers happened to be walking by, and he starts to sing along with the guy, right? I thought, oh man, this just doesn't happen. It sounds like apocryphal, but it was hilarious. Anyway, let's go. Let me know when I can listen to it.
Yeah, we're gonna do it in January. You're first. You're the first one for 2023.
Oh, cool. Very, very good. Looking forward to it, because I can tell a couple of friends. And then
Yeah. Let's get it going.
Okay.
Let's get it out there. And we'll talk again in the new year, Stephen, for sure.
Sounds great, Joe. Great talking to you, my friend. So
take care and have a good holiday. Have a good season. Hopefully we see you before that.
Sounds good. All right, you too.
Bye now.
Okay, bye.
So that was a good interview with Stephen Forbes. The Stephen Forbes Band have got two CDs and one EP out. You can catch Stephen Forbes Band around with his son and Pete and Mark, and they're a great band. It's a really cool band. It's a unique band in the city of Vancouver. They're different from a lot of different bands, and I think you would like the band if you like uniqueness and something different. That Stephen Forbes Band is the band to go and see, and you can catch them. They'll be around the city. Stephen's been playing quite a while. Good songwriter and a really nice guy. Good singer. So make sure you take a chance to check out this interview and the Stephen Forbes Band. This is Izzy Dakota Jones. This is the other doing podcasts for 2023. The first one, January. All right. Peace out. Happy New Year.